The theme song of the new Marvel film puts strong notes most of the time on Fantastic Four. But this trailer ends with big thuds on Fan and Four. To understand why, we'll first have to explore three related but different things: word stresses, pitch accents, and rhythmic beats. And along the way, you may be surprised to learn about the history of some familiar words. And you'll find out what I'm doing here. Bagpipes, I can feel it in my genes. I'm impatient to learn a little bit about my own history via the results of my DNA test, because I'm partnered again with MyHeritage, who, as you know, are a leading global family history and DNA service, and who are currently offering the DNA test to you, my viewers, at the very low price of $29. More on that later. I already use MyHeritage for building my family tree and animating old family photos, and I decided to go deeper and take the DNA test. So it only took me 2 minutes to do the cheek swab thing, and less than 3 weeks later I've got this email. View ethnicity estimate. Ready to explore your ethnicity? Let's go. I am 41% English. Okay, only 41%, so what else? Bagpipes, I can feel it in my genes. 39%. Danish. Okay, so now I'm starting to wonder, where is the Irish? Breton, now I've got to learn the fiddle. And 9% other stuff. Okay. View full ethnicity estimate. Okay, different confidence levels. Let's stick to high confidence. Genetic group England 13. English and some Scottish and Irish. There we go. Using MyHeritage, I've tracked my Lindsay great-great-grandparents to Belfast and Armagh, but Lindsay's a Scottish name and a lot of people there have Scottish ancestry. What if we try medium confidence? Northwestern England. Well, that's spot on. What next? DNA matches. Thousands of possible distant relatives, extended family, and one close family member. Really? Oh, wow, yeah, that is a cousin I've lost touch with. So they're on MyHeritage and I can contact them. DNA tools, ancient origins. Explore your origins across different populations in history. So this is the Bronze Age. I'm 41% Western Steppe. They clearly had advanced cosmetics on the Western Steppe. Research links. Takes me directly to nature. Massive migration from the steppe was a source for Indo-European languages in Europe. Well, I didn't really know what to expect, but there's real stuff there and lots of genetic rabbit holes to go down. And MyHeritage has committed in its privacy policy never to sell or license my genetic data. Overall impressed. Now, this special promotion is just $29, and I think that's way lower than you'll get anywhere else. And the way to get it is via the QR code or the link in the description with my coupon code. Recommended. Let's start with the standard story of stress shift. Here I am in Piccadilly. Dictionaries will tell you that this name has 2 stresses. Watch my hand, Piccadilly. And most dictionaries will say that the second stress on dilly is a primary stress, while the previous stress on picca is only secondary. Sounds reasonable. Dilly stands out as more prominent, right? Piccadilly. Well, now come with me. This is world famous Piccadilly Circus. Piccadilly Circus, adding circus has changed Piccadilly. Piccadilly Circus. Dilly is now less prominent than picca. And a lot of people would say that the primary stress has shifted from dilly to picca, hence the term stress shift. Or that the primary and secondary stresses have switched places, hence an alternative name, iambic reversal. Why has this happened? Some would say it's to avoid a stress clash. That is, to avoid having a big stress on dilly so close to a big stress on circus, as in Piccadilly Circus. However you analyse it, the phenomenon is incredibly widespread in English. It turns up constantly when you put words together to make bigger utterances, which is what languages tend to do. So we have Hyde Park, but Hyde Park Corner. Classic textbook examples include 13, but 13 men, with primary stress supposedly shifting in that word from teen to third to avoid the stress clash of 13 men. Now this change doesn't have to happen. In my recent video on the word covert, I mentioned that that word, like overt, has variable stress. In fact, I offered to make a video about it and lots of commenters said yes please, so here we are again. The word overt has two stresses, overt, and it's an adjective, so it's often going to be followed by a stressed noun, which means we can get
the overt conflicts.
But this doesn't always happen, and so we still get examples with a clear stress clash.
An overt symbol. Overt symbol.
Now, the old pronunciation of this word, covert, had only one stress, but it was remodeled on the pattern of overt. I argued in my video that that was a byproduct of the Cold War. The remodeling turned it into a two-stressed word, and for non-rhotic accents like mine, it meant changing schwa into the long nurse vowel, And like overt, the new pronunciation has variable stress, and you can get, for example, covert action or covert action. But if a particular combination of words is used so often that it becomes a fixed thing, the shifted stress pattern can also get fixed. This phrase, for example, is, I think, fairly fixed as covert ops. It's the same with Piccadilly Circus. It's pretty much fixed. By the way, the same thing happens with initialisms. The names of letters are stressed, like UK, EU, and military intelligence or Mission Impossible is MI. But then add another digit. This behind me is MI6. It's the same with US, but USA. And the shifted pattern can become the fixed stress pattern of a word, the one you use even when the word's not followed by anything else. I don't think I'm giving away state secrets when I tell you that MI6 is located here at Vauxhall. You may have wondered where this rather strange name came from. It's been traced back to the 13th century when there was a big house or hall here belonging to a guy called Fawkes or something like that. By the mid-17th century, it was the location of famous pleasure gardens. They were frequented by the diarist Samuel Pepys, who wrote the name like this. So he may have put the main stress on hall, like Toad Hall or Carnegie Hall. That's certainly what we have in the early 20th century Oxford English Dictionary, Vauxhall. The space before the L there tells you where the main stress is. And in 1918, phonetician Daniel Jones, in his Outline of English Phonetics, actually gave this name as an example of shifting stress. Here it is, right after Piccadilly Circus. His examples are near Vauxhall, but Vauxhall Bridge, which I just walked over. Earlier than that, it would have been common to refer to Vauxhall Gardens. More recently, Vauxhall Motors, etc. And the shifted form Vauxhall is now stuck, with or without the H, even when there's no following bridge or gardens or motors. I don't think I know anyone now who says Vauxhall. Changes like this can happen for some speakers or accents and not others. Right now, I'm in an idyllic rural location called Heathrow. At least that's what it was until they built an international airport on it. Now, I think for people around the world, it's known as Heathrow. Heathrow, because they only know it through Heathrow Airport. But here in Britain, a lot of people still say Heathrow.
Britain's new airport, Heathrow.
At least some of the time, and not all of them are old people.
Heathrow, 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 Heathrow.
Of course, if it's followed by a word like airport, then even they are likely to say Heathrow.
Heathrow's future, Heathrow's future. Heathrow, 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 Heathrow.
So why have I been talking about so-called stress shift? I use the term myself a lot as a convenient shorthand for the phenomenon I've been describing, but in fact I'm not sure that anything is really shifting, and I'm not sure that the thing that's changing is even stress. You see, when you move from the dictionary into the real world of spoken phrases, you have to start talking about intonation and rhythm. The key intonation concept here is the pitch accent. We often call them just accents, but to avoid confusion in this video, I'll use the full term pitch accent. This means a noticeable pitch movement that you associate with a stressed syllable. Now, every spoken intonation phrase has to have at least one main pitch accent, which we call the nuclear or tonic pitch accent. This goes on the last accentable syllable in the phrase. When you see this primary stress mark in a dictionary, it means that if, and pay close attention to the word if you put a nuclear pitch accent on this word, this is where it goes. And that's what you hear when you play a dictionary audio clip, because in each of those, the word is being said as a short intonation phrase with a nuclear pitch accent on the word. Also, dictionary audio clips always use a falling nuclear pitch accent, which isn't the only pattern. There are also rises and other patterns, but it's the default in standard accents of English. The nuclear pitch fall goes on or immediately after the syllable with the primary stress mark, like
action,
today,
imagination,
autobiographical.
To be consistent, one-syllable content words should also have a stress mark, as they do in the Merriam-Webster dictionary, because of course they get the nuclear pitch accent too.
day,
Fly.
A lot of people around the world think that these audio clips simply are how words are pronounced, but no, they just tell you how the word is pronounced if it gets a nuclear pitch accent. In fact, if it gets a falling nuclear pitch accent. Phrases, of course, can have more than one word. The nuclear pitch accent by default goes on the last content word, but phrases very often contain more than one word, and if a word isn't the last content word in the phrase, by default it won't get the nuclear pitch accent, so it won't sound the way it does in a dictionary audio clip. And this is the fundamental reason that there's a difference between this word in Piccadilly and in Piccadilly Circus. Now, if a phrase contains one or more stresses before the nucleus, the first of them typically gets what we call an onset pitch accent. A common type of onset pitch accent is a simple step up in pitch onto that syllable, like picker. And here's the thing, really the main point of the video. Phrases very often have no more than these two accents, the onset and the nucleus. Syllables between them, even syllables marked in the dictionary as stressed, even marked as primary stressed, very often have no pitch accent. That is, they don't stand out in the pitch contour. We say they have no pitch prominence. If we say this phrase with a high onset pitch accent on the first stressed syllable and a falling nuclear pitch accent on the last stressed syllable, which is a super common combination used in countless dictionary audio clips, we get Piccadilly Circus. And poor Dilly doesn't stand out at all. Piccadilly Circus. A longer example would be University College London. Now, if you ask me where all the stresses are in examples like these, I'd say they're back in the dictionary where they belong. The difference between Piccadilly and Piccadilly Circus, the difference between university, University College and University College London is essentially one of intonation. Or rather, intonation and rhythm. Some people might consider rhythm to be a component of intonation, but intonation is primarily about pitch and rhythm is crucially about timing. The timing of what I prefer to call rhythmic beats. So far I've been talking mostly about pitch, but in producing my examples I've inevitably been using rhythm too, and I've often been moving my hand on the beats. As with pitch accents, there's a relationship between rhythmic beats and the stresses that you can see indicated in dictionaries. We saw that when words are taken out of the dictionary and put into actual spoken phrases, the stressed syllables may or may not get pitch accents. Likewise, they may or may not get rhythmic beats. Remember, rhythm is about timing. Think of a metronome ticking out the beats. Beat, beat, beat. This pub is the Jack Horner, named after the nursery rhyme character who, using only his thumb, managed to extract a plum from a Christmas pie. The words Jack and Horner are both content words, and both have stresses. Putting rhythmic beats on both, we get Jack Horner, Jack Horner, Jack Horner. But this character's full name in the nursery rhyme is, of course, Little Jack Horner. He sat in a corner eating his Christmas pie. Note that it isn't Little Jack Horner, Little Jack Horner. No, it's Little Jack Horner, Little Jack Horner. No beat on Jack. And this is extremely common in English. When you get 3 dictionary stresses in some chunk, like this noun phrase, it's natural to skip a rhythmic beat on the middle one. And look what it does to the timing. Little Jack is now squeezed into 1 tick of the metronome. Little Jack Horner, Little Jack Horner. There are lots of examples in nursery rhymes of this skipping the middle beat. Humpty Dumpty didn't have a great fall. He had a great fall, had a great fall. No beat on the word great. And remember all the king's horses and all the king's men? No, the king in the middle didn't get a beat. All the king's horses and all the king's men. In normal speech, putting rhythmic beats on every syllable that's marked in the dictionary as stressed quickly starts to sound very emphatic. If I say Piccadilly Circus, even if there's no distinctive pitch accent on dilly, it still sounds weighty and measured. Likewise, University College London. It's like talking in all caps. It's more natural sounding to skip some of the beats. Piccadilly Circus, Piccadilly Circus, Piccadilly Circus, even though it means scrunching 4 syllables into 1 tick of the metronome. We can, if we really want, put 3 rhythmic beats on covert ops and MI6. More naturally, we lose the middle one. Covert ops, covert ops. MI6, MI6. When there are more syllables in a phrase, it may not be obvious which beats can or should be skipped. But for fun, you can try scrunching 7 syllables into 1 tick in University College London, University College London. English rhythm is sometimes described as stress-timed, which supposedly means that stresses tend to be spaced equally in time. But it's beats that tend towards this even timing, many of them of course being skipped. And let's be honest, in normal running speech, it can be a lot harder to hear the beats than in nursery rhymes. So these 2 tendencies, the tendency of intonational phrases to have just 2 pitch accents, an onset and a nucleus, and the tendency when you have 3 potential rhythmic beats to skip the middle one, reinforce each other and fill English speech with apparent shifts of stress or apparent shifts of stress. Dictionaries get quite confused in this area, and let me just say that I'll have to leave to another video the whole question of whether there are stresses after the primary, and if there are, why you can't put pitch accents on them. As we've seen so often in my videos, dictionaries are often out of date. The 2 most influential pronouncing dictionaries in their latest editions still list final stressed Vauxhall as an option. Several dictionaries tell you that in Britain, Heathrow is still the main or only pronunciation of that name, just like Brits supposedly still say covert rather than covert. And perhaps not surprisingly, dictionaries are very inconsistent with words that in real speech vary in the way I've been discussing in this video. That is, the many words with 2 stresses, where the later stress is more prominent when the word has a nuclear pitch accent, but less prominent when it doesn't. How should you show them in a dictionary? Well, of course, the common option is to put a secondary stress mark on the earlier stress and a primary stress mark on the later one. That's what the online Oxford Learners Dictionary does with Piccadilly. That's what it also does with 13, even though much or most of the time, of course, thir will be more prominent than teen. The online Cambridge Dictionary doesn't show any stress on thir. Merriam-Webster has a secondary stress mark on thir and a primary on teen, and then shows an alternative pronunciation with a primary stress mark on thir. And with Piccadilly, Merriam-Webster covers all bases and puts both primary and secondary marks on both syllables. In the dictionary I co-edit with words like these, we just put acute accent marks on both syllables, meaning you can put pitch accents on either or both of them, depending on the intonational context. Problem solved, right? Well, things are still messy, especially when you look at syllables that come immediately before the primary, that is, right before the syllable that gets the nuclear pitch accent when you say the word on its own. We can call these pretonic syllables. Some of these pretonic syllables are definitely unstressed and never get a pitch accent, like in today, begin, support, America. But in a lot of words it's not clear whether the pretonic syllable can get a pitch accent or not. Take unique. For some speakers of accents, it seems unaccentable, unique formula. But some speakers can put a pitch accent on a rhythmic beat on that first syllable. Unique formula, unique formula. How about volcanic? Can you say volcanic ash? It certainly isn't common.
From volcanic dust to rocket thrust.
I myself can't put a pitch accent on the pretonic syllable of entire. I say the entire country. But many Americans can say the entire country, and so can some Brits.
And it's been ranked recently as the 5th worst town in the entire country.
Many pretonic syllables, like the one in entire, have a split personality and seem torn between, on the one hand, weakening, and on the other, getting a full-blown pitch accent and rhythmic beat, like in this word. We saw in my covert video that it's possible for fan to get a pitch accent and a beat. This is former US President Dwight Eisenhower.
The quick changes from fantastic charge to covert retreat. Fantastic charge, fantastic charge.
But in this name, most Americans don't accentuate fan and can even weaken it to fun with a schwa.
Superman or the Fantastic Four, Fantastic Four, Fantastic Four, Fantastic Four.
I love Ben Grimm from the Fantastic Four, Fantastic Four, Fantastic Four, Fantastic Four, Fantastic Four.
But the potential to put a pitch accent and a beat on fan is definitely there.
The Fantastic Four, the Fantastic Four, the Fantastic Four, the Fantastic Four.
You do not need like a 2-hour, 40-minute Fantastic Four movie. That's just going to be way too much. 2-hour, 40-minute Fantastic Four movie. 2-hour, 40-minute Fantastic Four movie. 2-hour, 40-minute Fantastic Four movie.
The movie rights to the X-Men and Fantastic Four franchises, Fantastic Four franchises, Fantastic Four franchises, Fantastic Four franchises.
The first Fantastic Four movie, Fantastic Four movie, Fantastic Four movie, Fantastic Four movie sucked.
And don't forget to click the link in the description or scan the QR code and use my coupon code to get your DNA kit for just $29 plus a 30-day free trial of MyHeritage.